How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. You know, my coach always said to me that you have to find somebody in your life that you're going to pattern yourself after if you want to grow. And this week is especially meaningful to me because this particular person is one of the people that I've patterned myself after. This person has inspired me both creatively, personally, and professionally to be the best that I could be. And I've watched his career grow. And it's been helpful to me all along. He has been the 4-time British Hairdresser of the Year, a first-time hairdresser that was awarded an MBE by Queen Elizabeth, which is, by the way, a member of the Order of the British Empire. He was the creator of the Scrunch and the Wedge. He was the first, and in that, the Wedge was the first 2-page spread that was ever given to a hairdresser by the British Vogue. So let's get into this week's head case, Mr. Trevor Sorbie. Trevor, I have to tell you that, first of all, I'm going to apologize if I stutter stammer a bit because when I'm in the eyes of greatness here, but the reason why I'm also saying this is, do you realize, I was watching TV this morning and they said that today, according to astrology, is the luckiest day of 2023. And I can certainly say that because I have you on the podcast today. And but I just want to say welcome. It is just, I'm going to stop gushing and just say it's such a pleasure to have you on board.
Well, it's mine too, Baran. Chris, it's been many years since we bumped into each other, and it's good to see you. You got a bit grey around the front.
I'll tell you a little story. I don't know if you have, there's this event that we call Top Golf here, and it's just the lazy man's golf. You have sit around on couches. They have music playing, misters from here in Arizona, and so it's in the heat, and you get up and you whack the ball and you go down and you get something to eat. You have a little bevy. And I had brought the car, so I went through the pub area and then back out to get the car while the rest of my family was following behind me. And my son was walking about, 20, 30 feet behind me. And there was this little girl sitting at one of the tables. And as my son walked by, she turned to her dad and she said, "Dad, I didn't know Santa Claus played." So, if you need a stand-in at any of your parties or anything like that, I'm there for you, buddy. But yes, we've got a little, the red out of the beard and all of that has gone away. So, listen, I don't care where we are in life. There is so many people out there whose lives you changed. And I guess before I go into that, I want to just talk about and find out so people know where your beginnings, where did you come from? How did it start, etc.?
Well, when I was at school, I was getting bullied and I wanted to be an artist, but I also wanted to get out of school as quick as I could. And I said to my dad, who was a barber, he had a little barber shop, and I said, "Dad, I want out." I said, "I can't take it anymore." And he said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know, I'll get a job in a factory or something like my mates." And he said, "Well, come in the barber shop and see how you get on." So I said, "Yeah, all right, you're going to pay me, Dad, aren't you?" yeah, but not much. And anyway, I went in and was sweeping the floor, washing hair. But within 3 months, I was actually cutting people's hair. But it was, as I say, it was barbering, men's hair, and it was all just really short back and sides, a traditional workers' haircut. There were factory workers that mainly came to my dad's shop. And quite honestly, after 5 years of working with my dad and getting bored cutting short back and sides, I said, "Look, I'm going to quit." So I went for a job trying to sell razor blades for Gillette. And I didn't get the job. I didn't really want the job. I wanted the car that came with the job. But obviously, I didn't get either. So I said to my mum and dad, look, I'll go back into hairdressing, but I'd like to do ladies' hairdressing. So they sent me to a school in London called the Richard Henry School of Hairdressing. And it was a 6 months course, and it was £100, which is, I don't know what the rate is at the moment, but it's probably almost $100. But that was a lot of money to my parents. And I went there, did the course, and on the last day of the course, the principal of this school said, Trevor, he said, I see something in you. It's a little bit special. I said, really? Well, I said, what? He says, I think you should go to a good salon. So I said, okay. I said, where do you think I should go? He said, go to Vidal Sassoon. I thought, oh, I said, they're really big. I mean, we are talking, late 60s. And that's when they were at their peak. So I went there, and that's kind of where I started, really, getting involved in ladies' hairdressing in a very creative way.
And I was reading a couple of articles, just not that I don't know enough about you, because not only do I have all that, but I've got all of the Trevor. I'm sure you remember this book. I think we both looked a little bit younger than at that point. But the point is that you talked about vardering, and when I saw the expression, I went, pardon my French, but I said, what the hell is that? And so I went on to research it a bit, but tell me a little bit about what vardering is, what was it like in Sassoons? Because I believe you said that's where that kind of idea came from. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Vardering is a term where basically you're standing watching and learning all at the same time. Because I really believe I'm actually not a good teacher. But because I do things and I think, and somebody says, why are you doing that? I said, well, because it's right. I can't explain why it's right, but I just feel it. To teach, I'll tell you one of the best teachers, Ruth is one of the best teachers.
I agree.
Vivian McKinder is a great teacher because they segment everything. You do this, you do that, and you get that. They break it right down. I learned more by watching than by being taught. Vardering is watching and then doing a haircut, and then somebody checks it and tell you what's right, what's wrong. And it's a process of just building up to a technique that is where they want you to be. And then after that, you take a final test. You brought that
into your salons as well, right? That was one of the criteria that you had. Everybody had to go there.
Absolutely. There's a guy in our country called Nicky Clark. He's big with famous people and all of that. It's like £500 for a haircut with him. Now, if he came to me and said, Trev, I've hit hard times. I need a job. I can bring £10,000 worth of clients in tomorrow. I said, firstly, sorry to hear that, Nicky, but you're going to have to go through my system. And the system is do 5 commercial haircuts. If I like them, we will train you for a month, maybe even 6 weeks. And at the end of that, I personally will test you with 10 different disciplines. If you pass that, you can bring your £10,000 worth of clients in. And that goes for everyone.
And so, what I love that you're saying here is, and I think that so many salons just don't do, is they just don't allow for, and I'm going to use a word here that I don't think is the correct one, but a minimum salon standard. I think like just to let somebody come in ad hoc and not know what they're going to do. And when you've built up like the Trevor Sorbie brand, and then somebody brings something in with either A, different terminology, or B, just a lesser caliber, it just tears your brand down.
Exactly. I've never gotten out of bed to make money.
Right.
I've gotten out of bed to be the best that I can at what I do.
Yeah.
If I do that, I'll automatically make money.
Yeah.
There's one thing in life that why are designers, dress designers, $10,000 for a dress? Why do painters can have $1 million for a painting? What is it? It is. It's quality, it's perfection in that field, whether it's music, all the great artists, be it Madonna, George Michael, Frank Sinatra, they've stood the test of time. Why?
Yeah.
Because their quality of what they do is at the highest level, and that's how you make money.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. If you have the artistry and you're willing to live to those standards, then the money follows.
Yeah.
I think it's great advice. I have to tell you, you promise not to laugh when I tell you the story.
No.
Oh, you can. Yeah. Do you know Ann Mincy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was doing a show in Canada. It was the National Canadian show for Redken, and Anne was there speaking, and as often I did at that time when we were together all the time, I cut her hair, and I was sitting there cutting, and we had a couple glasses of wine, so we were chatting away, and she said, "What do you really want out of life?" And I said, now imagine this is I'm talking in the 80s. This would have been probably about I'm guessing 82, 85, somewhere in there. Always had been a big fan of your work, saw all of your work, tried to copy and never could. But she said, "What do you want to do?" And I had just opened our salon a number of years before that. And I said, "You know what I feel like doing is I really feel like I need to learn. So I should sell just pack up everything, take my family, move to London and see if I could work for Trevor." And she said, "So why don't you do it?" And I went, okay. And then I chickened out, and I never did, And I don't know, probably just the fear, notoriety, the position that I held you at that time and still do, and probably maybe from the simple fact of that little voice that goes, "Well, what happens if he said you can't work here?" So all of that kind of stuff ran through my head, but that was a goal at one time for me.
Yeah. In our country, people know that it's hard to get to work for me.
Yeah.
Many people want to, but they get intimidated if they've been a hairdresser for, say, 10, 15 years, and I have to go through a test. It's like, no, in case they fail the test, it would crush them, and they don't want to take that risk. And but I'm not going to give in to any of that. There's no gain without risk,
right?
And you have to risk certain things and have a go. I mean, I love a challenge. I mean, I take challenges head on. I think fear is something that stops us doing a lot of things. I hate flying, but the only way I get over flying, and I've flown all my life, is to put a headset on, and when those engines start whirring around and the guy takes his brakes off and we start moving, then I plug in a George Michael record, and all of a sudden fear turns into excitement because I get into the music and forget, and by the time I know it, we're in the air. And, oh, thank God,
It's interesting, the number of people that I talk to that do what we do, traveling, going and do seminars every weekend, and then that are still, they don't like flying. And it's really interesting. How many when in the heyday, and when I say in heyday, I just mean that there was a time back in the 80s, 90s, and even still starting in the early 2000s where there was a show every weekend that you could do, and sometimes I'm sure you had to turn them away. What was that like for you? What was it like? Were you gone every weekend? What was that like when you were?
Yeah, well, at one point, Redken bought my company, and I signed a 10-year contract with them. And it was basically 4 months of the year in the US and the rest of the time in the UK.
Right.
So I was going back and forward like a yo-yo. I'd be at home 3 weeks, and then be away 2 weeks, and then back for 3 weeks, back for a month. I mean, it was back and forward. That was tough, but I enjoyed it. I was in my heyday then. I was really probably at my peak. I had the energy. The desire was still very, very powerful. I loved the American audiences. I mean,
what was the difference? I mean, see, there's a lot of people that are listening and watching right now that they may not know the difference between an American audience and sometimes in the rest of the world. Describe that to them.
Well, if you're good, they let you know it. And if you're bad, they let you know it. I mean, it's as cut and dried as that. I only ever lost one audience, and that was, I think it was somewhere in Florida. And the only reason I lost the audience was the room the massive room that was in, the air conditioning was so high, people had coats on, and as I'm cutting hair, my hands are shaking because I was freezing, and that was the only time I lost an audience. So I don't blame myself for that. I blame the hotel. But I know an American audience says it gives you, it builds you up. When they know you're coming and they know a bit of your history and what you've done in the past, it's so exciting, but more scary because they think, oh my God, I've got to live up to this. You know, I mean, they're sitting there like dogs with their tongues hanging out, like waiting, and I'm like, oh my God, you know.
So do you suffer from imposter syndrome? I mean, I can speak. Hi, my name is Chris. I suffer from imposter syndrome.
What's imposter?
Imposter syndrome is just what you were describing, where you step on stage and nerves, and you go, well, you know, that will I live up to what they think that I am, and so on.
Right. I'll tell you what I'm about. I was in middle of America, forget this place, and I was so scared. I had a ritual. I used to be in the hotel, get changed. I used to go in the bathroom and I look in the mirror and I talk to myself and say, right, you better get out there and show them what you're about. And don't come back unless you've got them on their feet. Get it? And I was angry with myself and I slapped my face and everything. But one time I was so scared, I got the basin in the bathroom and I put my finger on it. And I was going to break my finger so I wouldn't have to go on stage. I was like, but I thought, hang on, the pain of this is not going to be as bad as the pain going on stage. So I backed off. But honestly, my nerves, and it worked the other way around as well. I was in Los Angeles in the Marriott Hotel, and I did a show, and I got a standing ovation. And I left the stage. I went straight upstairs. I said, 2 bottles of wine, send them up right away. And I drank them both. You know why? I wasn't happy with what I did. I was firing in 4, not 6 cylinders.
Wow.
I know when I'm doing a good show.
Exactly.
You don't have to tell me. I don't even need an audience. I know when I'm good. And I felt I could have done better, and I just wanted to drown it out. So I beat myself up. I'm very harsh on myself. Well, and I like that about myself.
Yeah, and how does that relate? How does that relate? Because I know that, we have so many friends that like Vivian and Ruth, and I work with Ruth all the time. Just with the symposium we did, she just spent I think out of this month, she's already been at my house probably about 14 or more days. But I love that woman, and she told me about that. She said that, Trevor was hard on us, but it made us who we were. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing. It's like a steel. If it's gotta pass some test and get some metal pounded into it.
Chris, the truth is hard to listen to, but you can't run away from it.
No.
If something's not right, it's not right. They may not want to hear it, but it will do them good to hear it. Yeah. It'll hurt, and they'll cower away and maybe have a little cry or whatever. Honesty is the best policy. You've got to say it the way it is. If you want to teach somebody the right stuff. Yeah.
See, there's the point, is because you were the mentor. And you've got to tell them what's right, because somebody in the passing and the wings can just go, oh, yeah, that was fine. But if that's fine from the wings, but if you're the one that is helping to shape that life, then you have to stand in and you've got to tell them what's right. That's the responsibility that you have.
I always remember the best assistant I ever had was a guy who was in the Navy, a young guy. He went to the Navy, he left school, went to the Navy for 3 years, gave up the Navy and came to me as a hairdresser. That guy stood upright, hands behind his back, watched everything I did, knew what I wanted next. He'd be right there. His discipline was on point.
Yeah.
And that was what the Navy taught him. That discipline. Ballet dancers have that same harsh discipline. And it builds you up into someone that knows what perfection is all about.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfection.
Yeah. It's because it is about, what I heard there was the discipline. But unless you're really watching, particularly from an assistant point of view, is your ability to anticipate. Because you're trying to it's like a chess game. You're not just sitting there watching. You're saying, what's the next move going to be? So you're ready for the next move. Yeah. I'll never forget Chris Sorbie and I were doing a gig in Korea, and I had this assistant that came. And the littlest detail, like I can remember, how if you passed an iron to somebody or a blow dryer, you would just have it in your hand and you'd pass that over and you'd have to go through a couple of moves to get it right. Mm-hmm. These people would hold it in such a way that there was only one move. You just grabbed it, it was automatically in the right. And as simple as that one little thing was, I just found it astounding that, there was that much attention to detail in their training that not only just don't just be there and pass it, but what is the finest thing that you can do that helps to save that person time?
So, well, that's someone that's very disciplined, that's focused, and will become a good hairdresser because he's got the right mentality.
Yeah. So what now? So I don't know if. Well, I'm just going to jump to it. Your photographic work has always. I mean, I don't know anybody that's of the ilk that we're at that doesn't know your name, isn't inspired by you, and I'm not just idly blowing smoke up your skirt here. I just want to say that it's you. I mean, I don't think I have to tell you that you have a gift that so few people have in our industry of being able to do a photograph. And I happened, I don't know if you ever remember, I happened to work backstage with you one time. And that was a highlight of my career. And we won't go into it. But the reality is I remember you saying one thing, is that I remember you were doing this look where it was straight hair and you made these coils with an iron. Mm-hmm. And then you put another piece of hairs through it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
I remember.
And I remember I said to you, I said, that's so beautiful. And you said, I don't even know if you said Chris, because you might not have even known my name at the time, but you said to me, it's not the thing that you do, it's about how clever can you make it so that people go, why didn't I think of that?
Exactly.
And I tell people that all the time.
Exactly. I got that message from a very famous comedian called Charlie Chaplin. Oh. And he said, doing what I do is easy. Thinking of what I do is difficult.
Yeah.
It's that easy when you sit in an audience. I always used to think, right, I can do something that probably nobody would want to wear anyway, and make it all whatever. But give an audience something that they think, well, I can do that. Yeah. I could do that. That's not that difficult. And they can, because like you said, a coil, a bit of hair going to, and boom, that's simple. But you didn't think about it. I did.
Yeah,
and that's the secret. And that's what made my shows work, because I never did the impossible. I always did something that was doable. Maybe couldn't be used on every client, because not every hairstyle can. But if you had the occasion to be able to do that technique, it wasn't as difficult as you thought it would be. It's given, and I think teaching, and also, Chris, one of the things learning is an experience that can be fun or it can be miserable.
Yeah.
My daughter was in a school and she was learning French, and she hated French, and her grade was the lowest it could be. I had to change the school for different reasons, and she was doing French in this new school, and her grades went right up. I said, hey, Jade, how come your grades gone up? She said, oh, Dad, teacher makes it fun.
Yeah.
And when I was doing shows, part of what I think worked for me was I would never tell a joke, but I would tell of funny experiences that happened to me, things that would make people laugh. And I always used to think that my job was to teach and inspire and entertain.
Yeah.
And when I say entertain, I don't mean, jumping around and doing silly things. I mean, keep them alive, keep them interested in you. We have a program in the UK with several soap programs, and one of them was a very famous one, Coronation Street, and it's on five nights a week, and it's been going 60 years, right? 60 years. Now, I learned from that, and I'll tell you what I learned. Half-hour program, and in that half-hour program, there is situations with different families going on, and it goes 30 seconds on that family, blah, 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 and then it cuts to this other moment that someone's having a bad time or whatever, and then it cuts to another thing. And what I learned was, if you change something and keep it moving, that half hour goes like that. And for anything that can last 60 years, a half-hour program, there's a formula there, and that formula works. Keep the ball in the air. Keep them. Don't stick on one thing, because you put people to sleep, no matter how clever you are. It's like watching paint dry, Exactly. You have to keep the energy up. And I used to work hard at that. That was part of why I think it worked for me.
Trevor, I think I heard you say several times that you don't think that you're a great teacher, but I'm going to put a little different light on that for you, is that teachers are great storytellers. and you've always been a great storyteller, and it's always, if you can tell them a story, because I've watched you, believe me, I've been in more of your audiences than you know, and I've seen you do that, where you just do something and then you tell a story about it, and it's called it, taking it from your world into their world and back to yours again, and you're a master at that. So, I think that you're, like you said, you're hard on yourself, but that's just really what a good teacher is somebody that can talk about what's going on, that you're doing it, put it into somebody else, into your life by relating a story that I can relate to.
Yeah.
So, I think that
the fact that you can be human on stage, because I think people's anticipation of someone that's got a big name, they think, oh, he's going to be whatever they think they're going to be.
God, small G, all of that stuff.
But if they see somebody up there, it's like, oh, God, that happened to me once. Be a human being. Admit you've had problems. Admit that you messed up on something. Be one of them, and they'll love you for it, because at the end of the day, you are one of them. And they're one of me. We're all doing the same job, and we all have the same problems, but you got to admit it.
Bingo.
There's nothing wrong with that.
You've changed in your salons. I'm just going to cite some of them. They're just coming to my brain in here, and I've got all these bloody notes in here, and I haven't went to one damn thing yet. The people like Eugene Solomon, Angela Seminaro, Vivian McKinder, Antoinette, Ruth. You've created so many. I don't know if the word's created, influence, whatever the word is, but you've taken some of these people and you've got them you've given them whatever fire that is, whatever knowledge that it is, whatever means that it has to make these people some of the greats in our industry right now. And they're the second generation of Trevor Sorbie. They're the trickle down, the children that you've had, the hair children that that doesn't sound right, so I won't even bleep that out, but I don't want to insinuate anything in here, but those are the people that you've moved on to inspire. And then I'm going to take it a step further. There's the hundreds of thousands that me in that other group were you influenced by being you on stage. And there's all of those that pay homage to you because of that. Now, I never had that one-on-one influence that you gave to people, but you inspired me, and you were a part of why I am who I am today. Because I watched what you did, and I listened to your stories, and I said, fuck it, if he can do it, so can I. And I never claimed that I'm going to get to any level that you're at, but I will say that you have that effect on people. The names that you've mentioned, they saw me do techniques. They worked with me on stage. They knew what I did. What I taught them was a way to think. Mm-hmm. I never taught. They learn the technique, but the techniques change anyway. So, after they leave me, they're doing their own thing anyway. What I taught them was a way of thinking. I'll try and explain myself in the best way I can. For example, I'll give you a good example. Opposites work. Up, down, in, out, black, white. They're opposites. Anything in the middle is grey. Mm-hmm. Right? So, for example, if you want to cut a line like a V shape, the opposite of that would be that shape. Right? That's the opposite. Now, it's in the book, a haircut called the Wolf Man. It was a spiky haircut. Lee, we're a bit up there. Can you bring that up, Lee? I've got a picture of it here that Lee's going to bring up.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can,
right.
here it is.
Right. Now, how that came about was simply this. I had to be inspired, and I'll tell you what inspired me was punk. Now, punk was like anti-establishment. It was young kids that had Mohicans, they pins through their noses, anti-establishment. Everything was bad taste. Now, what I liked about them was their attitude, anti-establishment. Right, anti-establishment. I like that. Let's turn that into hairdressing. Anti-establishment. What's the opposite of a good haircut? A bad haircut. Right, let's do a bad haircut. Now, instead of cutting hair when hair was down, let's make it stand out. Instead of cutting it with a scissor, let's cut it with a razor so you get a fine end. What's the opposite of a good colour, a bad colour, a regrowth? Everyone hates a regrowth. So instead of bleaching it all, I just bleached the ends. Put all those three things together and you get that as a result.
Yeah.
And another, I used the same method with texturizing, using that same, put a baseline into a haircut. And instead of picking the hair up and layering it like you would with a scissor, just pick up lumps of hair and just cut into it at random, but with feeling, not just hoping. You kind of knew what you were doing. And that's how texturizing came about.
Yeah.
So I taught a way of thinking.
Yeah. Tell the story about the Scrunch, because I don't. For anybody that's young and new, and they do it all the time. But it's something that you invented.
Yeah. Well, I was working for a guy called John Frieda, and he was one of the top hairdressers at the time, and his clientele were, let's put it this way, ladies at lunch, all right, very rich. I mean, I hated the clientele. I mean, they're just not my type of client, but I needed to work, so I had to put up with it. And this one lady, she had long, thick, red, porous hair, and John's method was always finger drying or just sort of rough drying. And I thought, oh, God, this is going to take me forever. And I said, look, do you mind if I sort of speed this process up? Because I've got a couple of clients waiting. And she sort of reluctantly said, yeah, okay. And I just got a handful of hair in my hand, put the heat into it, let it cool down, and then just brushed it out. And bingo, the volume that came out of that was incredible. And now I tried that on fine hair, thick hair, any kind of hair. It worked every single time. And that's how scrunch drying came about. Yeah. It was, I mean, there isn't a woman in the world that probably hasn't had it done at some point.
And the point is, and part of the reasons why I want to do these podcasts are that we don't lose the history of where stuff comes from.
Yeah.
Because to give credit, I find there's so much that happens in our industry where everybody has got this, I invented, and I want people to know where pup really came from. Is that so? Who the true people are with it that really made a change in our lives. So. Thank you for that. And then there's one more picture that I want to bring up, which is iconic, which is another one that I mean, of all the stuff that Trevor, I don't think there's a picture you've done that I haven't admired, but this one I think is the one that really changed our industry. So I want you to tell me about it first, and then I've got a myth that I want to confirm or put down.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. Fidel Sassoon was still healthy, wasn't doing hair, but he was invited to go to Paris to do a show, and it was the first time an Anglo-Saxon hairdresser was asked to do a show in Paris. Now, in America, there is, you probably don't know this, a lot of Americans don't know it, but England and France once went to war many hundreds of years ago, and neither side have forgotten it about it. So we kind of don't like each other, or there's a lot of rivalry. But on that show was the best hairdresser in Paris called Alexandre de Paris. He was the king of hairdressing in Paris. And the other team that were on there was the Carita sisters, who were just as famous in Paris. Yep. Now, it was Vidal Sassoon, Carita, and Alexandre. And Vidal got all these art directors together and said, look, guys, we're going to Paris for the first time. I want a collection from you guys. So go away and come up with something. So we all went our own way. And one day I had this model called Mary, came into the salon. She'd let me do anything to her hair. I said, look, I want to do a haircut on you. It's short around the outside and long on the inside. I said, it's going to look nice, don't worry. She said, yeah, go for it, Trev. So I cut it right around the outside, around the ear, right into the nape, really short. Just pulled it out a little bit as each layer came down, just a little bit of graduation. And I blow dried it, and it just looked like a helmet. And I thought, the French are going to hate that, because they like their women to look all very glamorous and that. So I thought, I've got to try and salvage this somehow. So I just brushed it back on both sides, and out came this beautiful shape, like a mushroom almost. And Christopher Brooker was in the South Moulton Street salon at the time. And I said, Chris, come over here and have a look at this, see what you think. He went, love it. He said, love it. He said, we'll get that photographed. And it was the first picture that ever got a double-page spread in English Vogue.
Yeah.
Now, the name, again, just a nothing story, but it's something that no one really knows. I was having a glass of wine in a wine bar with Christopher, and he had this piece of paper, and he kept sort of just folding it up and what have you. And we're chatting away. He said, I've got it. I said, what? He said, I've got the name. And he folded this paper up. It was in a V shape. And he said, I've got it. The Wedge. And I thought, yeah, why not? That's a good name. And that's how the name came about. Just a lot of it by accident. But
thank you, because you just confirmed the myth, because I had, there was a story floating around. I can't remember whether it was, I may have heard it from one of my teachers, who I also give great credit to, who I am today. Tony Beckerman, I think was, Tony Beckerman, I think, told me the story about that the haircut, well, they put it as it was a mistake, but when you brushed it back, this is what you got out of it. Yeah. And I so I never know whether that was 100% true or not. So now we have it from the horse's mouth per se.
Yeah, it's true.
Wow. That's.
But it's like anything. A lot of inventions, a lot of things that have been created in this world have been mistakes. And it's something that didn't work, but has worked, but not in the way that they thought it would. But but that's just sheer luck. But you know what? I still take full credit for it.
Yeah, as you should, because and it's funny the times it's funny the times that comes back. It's like such a classic look that it's been brought back in many different ways. And then sometimes, I've seen some of it where people add on way too much to that wedge, where it just gets, they'll cut the top super short, leave pieces hanging out. And I always call it kitchen sink. It's like they throw everything at it rather than just staying with the purity of it, or maybe adding one thing more, not 10 things more.
Yeah, well, that's one of my assistants. He joined last couple of weeks, and he said, "Mr. Sorbie, can I show you a haircut that I did the other night?" And I said, "Yeah, let me see it." And he showed me on his phone, and it was a girl with a heavy sort of fringe, and it was just sort of straggly, dark hair, and it was wet. And I said, "Okay, yeah, right, I like that so far." He says, "But wait till you see it finished." And he made it look like an old woman because he had tongued it and curled. And I said, "I want to ask you something." I said, "Be honest with me. Did you like it when it was wet, or do you like it when it was like?" "Well, I kind of liked it when it was wet." I said, "Yeah." So did I. I said, "That you've made her look 50, and there she looks really hot." I said, You got to know when to stop.
Yeah.
You got to, if it feels good in the gut, stop. Don't take it any further because you're going to go too far. Kitchen sink and all of that.
No, it's true. It is true. You had an MBE.
Yeah.
First of all, it is to the MBE. What is it? Master is member of the British Empire, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so, but what's that like when you get that? Because the Queen gives that to you, correct?
Yeah.
So you get to meet her and tell her about the process.
Yeah. Well, there's no process. One day you get a letter, you open it up, and it's got Buckingham Palace on it, and you've been invited to be. Invite is not the right word, but you've been chosen to have for an MBE. Would you accept? So obviously I said yeah, and I went along to the palace. It's called an investiture, investiture, right? And every year, a certain number of people get rewarded for what they've done in their chosen profession. And I got it for my contribution to my industry. I always remember, word for word, I had a top hat and tails, and, I was looking like a English gentleman, and they said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Trevor Sorbie for his contribution to hairdressing." So up I walk and walked up to her, and she came up to
Elizabeth,
me. Yeah, Elizabeth that's just died.
Yeah.
And she said, "I understand you do some rather strange hairstyles." I said, "Well, Your Majesty, I try and create some new ideas and sort of make things, try and push the barriers forward." Yes. She said, "I've seen you on television. You're very good at what you do." I said, "Oh, thank you very much." And she said, "We must have a chat one day." And I went, "Yeah, sure." Anyway, when she shakes your hand, I'm trying to do this for the camera. She shakes your hand, and then she goes, boom, a little shove as if to say, "Right, bugger off. You've had your 30 seconds, and off you go." So 2 weeks later, I get a call from Buckingham Palace. "The Queen would like to meet you." I said, "Right, okay." So I went along to a couple of days later to the palace and sat in the palace in a long corridor, and there's a guy sitting on this couch where I was sitting, and I was like really nervous, didn't know what to expect. And I said, "What do you do to this? And he says, "Oh, I'm the Queen's bodyguard." And I thought, "Ooh, okay." I thought, "You've got a gun on you." You know? So anyway, the Queen's lady in waiting came out and said, "Mr. Sorbie, this way." So I walked down this hallway, and then I go, and I'm in her private, area where she lives. Well, she doesn't live in the palace, but that's where really it's her office. Yeah. She used to live in Windsor Castle. Anyway, she wanted me to be a hairdresser, basically. And I was in there talking to her for about 45 minutes. And the Prime Minister doesn't get 45 minutes with her. He gets like 10 minutes. Yeah. And anyway, long story short, I couldn't do it because my schedule and her schedule were just going. I would have had to have gone to Australia with her, to America, all over the world, and I was really busy, shows booked and everything. I just couldn't commit to that, so I had to refuse. Having said that, I employed a Queen's hairdresser. He works for me to this day. So I won't forget that day.
No, that's that's a privilege and an honor, and and it's to be recognized. I think that's one of the biggest things that I think people can do, is especially not only just by the people in your industry, but by the country as a whole. So that was pretty wild. Now we were talking just before we went on the air. And we were talking about, I asked you a question about with all of that and everything that you've done, but are you still did you still do hair? Are you still in the salon?
No, not working. I go in every week, a day, 2 days a week. I don't actually own the company anymore. I didn't have to, but I did sell the company to a businessman from Dubai, and it works very, very well, put it that way. He's still kept the quality of what we do. But unfortunately, I got cancer, and after they removed the cancer, they gave me chemotherapy, and I've got what's called neuropathy, and I've lost the use of the feeling in my fingers from sort of there up. I can't feel hair anymore.
And will that ever come back?
No. It can get worse, but it won't ever come back. My toes are the same. I can't walk barefooted. Wow. I have to have shoes on. So unfortunately, that's... but it doesn't stop there. I've had cancer in my liver, and then they removed part of my liver. Then it came back to my liver, and they removed some more of the liver, and it's back again. And tomorrow, I will be having my chemotherapy. I have a nurse that comes to the house and administers the chemo. And because they've cut so much of my liver away, they can't cut any more away because it's so near an integral blood vessel, and it's too dangerous to cut any more away. So I'm under chemotherapy. As I said, I've had chemo for 3 months. I had 3 scans the other day, and the result was good. The tumor had reduced in size 50%. So the oncologist was very happy about that. Not as happy as I was, but he was happy. And I even had a drink afterwards.
Oh, there you go. A little drink for the little liver. And what am I trying to say? So I'm going to 3 months more of chemo to shrink it right down, and then they want to stick a red hot needle in through my tummy into the tumor and burn it out, and get rid of that little alien that's bothering me. But you know what? People say to me, we're talking like I don't have cancer, right? Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
to be honest, I'm still in a bit of shock, but
Well, I go in the salon. Trev, you look great. I say, yeah, thanks. Usually people with cancer walk around with a pretty sort of heavy
yeah,
load on their shoulders, And I said to you earlier, I have cancer in my body, but I don't have it in my mind. I
right.
never wake up thinking, "Oh, I've got cancer. Oh, I'm going to die." Oh, no, I'm up and out and laughing, joking. You can hear it in my voice. I've got
Yeah.
life in me. It's going to take a bit more than cancer to get me. I've got a fighting spirit, and I'm sure people even listening to this will think, "Oh my God, I wouldn't have said that he's ill," and I'm not. I am, but I'm not.
I
won't
think there's
accept
this
it.
saying that went around, and I don't know who started it, and it has a bad word in it, so I won't bleep it out because we're an adult program here. But fuck cancer, and that's what I really believe, that you've got to take part of it is you hear about so many, and God bless, I haven't had it. I don't know what it's like. I can't even be empathetic towards it because I don't think unless you have it, you can't.
Yeah.
However, I do feel that the people that I really admire are the ones that get it, but they just say, "Fuck it, I'm gonna. This is about me and my will and my mindset." And
But Chris, there's another side to it. We all have a life.
yeah,
We're all going to die. We just don't know when, right?
yeah,
That's the only thing we don't know. But we're all going to die. And the way I look at it is this. Well, if you go to a bank manager and say, "I'm successful," he would say, "Well, how much money have you got?" Right? He'd judge you on that. Well, I judge life, being successful in life, is not how much money you've got, it's what you've done in your life.
yeah,
And I have lived a life where I've traveled the earth several times. I've achieved more than I ever dreamt I would get to. I've sampled the best cuisines in life. I've had a wonderful life. That's my wealth.
yeah,
That's my wealth. And I can take that upstairs to my mum and dad and say, "Hey, I know there's no currency up here, so I can't give you any money, but I tell you what I did when I was down there. I did all right. You would have been proud of me. I can take that." And that is wealth. That is true wealth.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. See, I believe, Chris, that if I walk down the street, anyone, I said, "Do you want to be successful?" They go, yeah. And I said, "Well, you can be. You can be. Because if I can..." I was crap at school. I was no good with any academics. I was only good at sport and art, so that was it. I lived in an apartment block that shared an outside toilet with, and tin bath out on a Friday night. It was pretty squalid conditions.
Yeah,
If I can make it, and I'm not clever. I'm not that smart, but I'm not that stupid either.
right.
And it's that bit that has worked for me. I'm not stupid. If you want it, you got to put your nose to the grindstone, because it ain't going to be handed to you.
Yeah.
There's only two times you get a gift in this world, and that's Christmas and your birthday. The rest you have to work for.
Yeah.
And I've never lost that feeling. And no one's handed me anything. I've earned every single thing that I've got.
Yes, you have.
Because I wanted it.
Yeah.
I wanted it more than anyone else, and I got it.
Yeah.
And if they said tomorrow, "Trev, you got 3 months to live," I say, "Okay, fine."
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Well, I hope that day. I hope that. Well, it will come, and I hope it's not soon.
Yeah.
Trev, there's one thing that I wish I had something. I'm not gonna. I've got a couple quick things I want to run you through here that I do with everybody that I have on the program.
Okay.
But there's one thing that you said in there that you do have that you didn't list, and that's respect. You know, that's our industry. Just respects what you've done. You did a lot of things for fighting through that of what you had to do to get where you're at. But you also have the respect of our whole industry. And
well, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Is that to me is wealth.
Yeah.
That's worth more than money to me.
Yeah. No.
So
you have tons of that from me, my friend. I got just a couple of things. I just want to do one quick thing. This is what I call rapid fire questions.
Oh yeah.
and I'm just going to throw. And I don't know if you ever watched James Lipton, and he had always something like that on when he had inside our actor's studio.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but they're fun. So it's just like first thing that comes up. They don't have to be big explanations. Just first thing that comes to your brain.
Okay.
What turns on the creative process for you?
Achievement.
And what stifles it?
I know it's got to be quick on this, but nothing.
Oh, wow.
Nothing.
Yeah. Awesome. Of an event or a show that there's probably many, but someone that come to your brain, an event or a show that you did, first one that comes to your brain that you loved.
What show I loved?
Yeah.
The best show that I've done?
Yeah.
I would say it was the year 2000, L'Oreal's 60th anniversary. That was definitely top of the
list.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Things in life that you dislike the most in life.
Laziness.
And what do you love the most?
Happiness.
Most difficult time in your life?
Being trolled through a newspaper, which was, what do they call it? When you're set up. I was set up by a woman, and it put me in hospital for a month. And I was actually, what's the word? I was sectioned.
Oh.
I was going to kill myself.
Oh my God.
That was pretty bad.
I would say that was a wild one. Things you hate most about our industry?
People that shouldn't be in it.
Person that you admire the most?
Vidal Sassoon.
Person you wish you could meet?
So many. I think Richard Branson.
Wow.
You know, the guy, Virgin.
Something people don't know about you.
Well, there's a couple of things. I'm actually very shy when I meet somebody. I can stand in front of 1,000 people, but when I meet somebody first time, I go all silly and I can't talk properly.
I can relate. Okay, month off. Where would you go? What would you do?
I would never take a month off for a start because I get bored. I'd never take more than 10 days holiday because after that, all I feel is if I go to, say, like Dubai, the first week you sort of see everything for the first time, and then the rest of the time you're retracking what you've just done. I couldn't be away for a month. I'd get bored.
Oh, love it. So, anything that terrifies you?
The thought of being in a plane crash.
Oh, favorite curse word?
Favorite curse word?
Favorite curse word?
Fucking you asking me that?
Oh, I love it. Favorite, it's funny, some people just won't answer that one, and other ones just come straight out, and I love you for it. Favorite comfort food?
Pasta.
Oh.
And any pasta.
Any pasta.
Yeah.
Something in the industry that you haven't done but you want to.
I can't do what I want to do, but I would love to do another show. And I can't. But I'd like, I would call it the final curtain where this would be, I would invite all the top people in our country to come and see it. And I would say, this is it. This is the very last time you'll see me do hair. I would love to have done that, but I can't because of
the neuropathy.
So that's
well, here's hoping. Here's hoping. Still there. Do you know what a do-over is? And I'm not sure if it's a Canadian expression. A do-over is, if I could have just done that again, I'd have done it differently.
I've done a lot of do-over.
What was the thing that comes? If you had one do-over, I said, like, snap your fingers. You had one do-over. What would that be?
Not married my first wife or my second.
Oh, I love it. So, listen. Earlier we were talking about that you can't do hair now because of the neuropathy, but you said that there is something that you have started doing. What is that?
Art. Most days I actually do drawings, either pencil or ink drawings, and I can get these over to you.
Yeah, send them to me and we'll have them up.
Yeah, what I'll do, I'll show you the first one. The very first thing I drew when I picked the pencil up was, I don't know if you can see it, but there's, where's that camera?
It should be straight up in the middle of the top of the iPad. Yeah, coming a little more over. Oh, yeah.
3 bananas.
A little more,
right?
little more to your left. Oh, yeah.
three bananas. I don't even say that's good because it ain't.
And when was that? How long ago was that?
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
And now I'm doing things like
little more to the left. A little more to the left. There. Oh my God. Oh my God. Over just a little more to the left. There you go. That is freaking amazing.
Just a couple of others.
I'll tell you, they may have taken the hair away from your hands, but they didn't take away the art from your brain.
That's in.
A little more to the left again. More More left, left. Oh my God, Trevor.
I mean, the detail in that took 3 days.
Wow.
So,
Well, one day, when you get one, I'm going to get you to draw something. I'll pay. I'd just love to have something to put on my wall. That would be yours,
I'll do it as a gift.
Oh, Trevor, there was nothing that would make me happier in my whole life.
Well, all I need is an address.
Yeah, well, I'll get that to you. And but Trevor, I wanted just one final question before we kind of wrap this whole thing up. Is if you had one wish for our industry, and you could snap your fingers, and you could solve it, fix it, whatever that would be, what's that wish you would have for our industry?
Right. Right, I'm going to be very honest here.
Do.
Technology is a wonderful thing, but it can be a bad thing. And I think social media, there's people in our country that are becoming quite famous by using Instagram and different outlets on that sort of medium, and I think people put filters on their pictures, they retouching. There's a dishonesty in what's happening with trying to be famous, if you like. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that at all. There is no shortcut to being one of the best. There's no shortcut. And yeah, you can fool people, but put them on a stage and see how they get on there. Yeah. They wouldn't be so fantastic. And I think the magic's gone out of it. I think the magic's gone into it. You can rebuild, you can distort, and it's cheating, man. Yeah. It's not real. That's what I hate the most.
Yeah. Yes. I tend to agree. Trevor, it's one of those things that if you could just sign it and just say, yeah, I'm done, finished. I know now that I've had such a great conversation with you. It's been a highlight of my life.
Well, I've enjoyed talking to you. I've been honest with everything that I've said. When's this going out? When will people? Do they see it or just hear it?
Yeah. Well, we can get it to you so you can see it and hear it first.
No, it's not that I want approval because I know what I've said. I've got nothing. Yeah. I don't have to worry about that. But they actually see. It's not just. It's not. Oh just no! It sound.
Is. It is. It's sound and it'll be video and audio.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So, Trevor, I just want to say thank you on behalf of all the people that know you and get a chance to hear your honesty. And for those people, God knows what rock you crawled out of if you don't know Trevor Sorbie. But just to get to meet and know you has been, I'm glad that I could be a little conduit for that for them. So thank you.
Chris, the one thing, I love being my age. I'll tell you why. What I've been through in my life, I can pass down. Yeah. It's called wisdom. Yeah. And that is something that I never really understood what wisdom was because I'd never felt it. But when I talk to the youth of today, I've got a lot of wisdom because whatever they're going through, I've been through that. Yeah. And wherever they're going, I've been through that. And so on and so on. I've been through it all. So I can give off my experience, my knowledge, my understanding of the youth of today and the knowledge that I have. I'm not saying I'm clever. What I'm saying is I've got experience and I can help people. And I try to in the hairdressing world.
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. I'll just leave it at this, is that the one thing that you have is you have the respect of our industry, you have the trust of it, and on behalf of all of the industry, I just want to say thank you for the gifts that you've given us.
Well, it was entirely my pleasure, Chris. And good luck to you, mate.
Thank you.
Let's hope our paths cross.
I hope so. Make that soon. Yeah? Even if it can only be with a little glass of wine or something, but we'll make that happen.
It won't be a little glass, mate.
Well, I won't be responsible, but I will help to coordinate.
All right. Well, you take care. And
thank you, Trevor. Yeah.
All right.